All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Runners Roundtable. Today, I am speaking to Victoria Buker, and I am so grateful to have you on the show. So grateful to have you here talking to me today, because when I went to your website, just celebration. I mean, you do such a great job at conveying that movement is celebration. So I'm just so happy to have you on to talk to us about that, because that's truly where I'm at in my particular running journey. At this point, I've been running consistently at this capacity for a decade now. And I feel like the past few years have been focused less on time and more on feeling good when I move my body. So if you can take the next few moments to introduce yourself to all of us and to tell us your running story.
Perfect. And thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad that the website resonated with you, because that's what I want it to do, to celebrate where you are, what season you're in. So I'm Victoria Buker, and I have been a certified run coach. I think I put in the email 7 years, but I think it's actually like 10 or 11. I feel like all the years just like squished together. So it's been almost a decade. I started running the typical like family turkey trot every time we travel for Thanksgiving, and it was super fun. But I've always was I'm a back of the pack. I call it the party pack. I am a back of the pack runner. And I was also very kind of the larger kid growing up. And so, but I always loved moving. I swam year round. I did dance. I just loved being active. And that kind of progressed. I actually wanted to run a marathon. So I went from turkey trot to marathon in my brain. This was like 16, 17 years ago. Perfect, trajectory there. And so I had just moved to Savannah, Georgia. I'd been running off and on when I lived in like Key West and Portland, Oregon, and I finally landed in Savannah. And I put an ad on Craigslist because it was like Facebook really wasn't big back then, I guess, as much as it is now. And I put in like my running pace, which was a little bit faster than I did run, but I wanted to like meet someone 2 days a week to go run. I met my running partner who I ran with for years that way. And it's funny, we both like showed up and was like, okay, you're not a murderer. Awesome. Great. So I have my Craigslist running partner, Charlotte, who was amazing and trained her for numerous races. And that was just kind of how I really dipped my toe into running beyond like the turkey trots. My first one was the Disney Marathon with a bunch of my college girlfriends. Really great race until Cinderella at mile 1 tells you you're almost there. And I literally, I just like started cracking up laughing. I'm like, well, not really, but I appreciate the celebration that we're all here in Disney. But about mile 15, I've been struggling with my knee for a while. I didn't train the smartest. I didn't have a coach. I was just doing whatever I found off the good old internet back in the day. And my knee just felt like it gave out, just immediately started swelling. So I waited for the bus to pick me up at mile 15. And it was what it was. I was proud of myself for getting that far, but also then recognized I needed someone on my team. I can't do it by myself. Charlotte was a great resource, but like, I needed someone else on my team. So thankfully, the Fleet Feet Savannah started a running program, and I started with them for the Rock and Roll Marathon in Savannah the first year. I wanted to train and do the full again, having like jumped. I didn't really do half marathons, never did 10K. I'm not suggesting this is the way to do this. And I loved it. I had 2 great coaches, Carol Ann and Coach Jane, amazing. And they taught me what it's like to be trained. And I had been trained with swimming my whole life. I just didn't equate that to running, because running's just like, it was the sport you did when you were in trouble in PE. It's the sport, it was the punishment sport.
Yep.
It's actually the sport. So, and that just kind of took me from there. I then, a few years later, got certified of RRCA to coach, and really the back of the pack, half marathon and 5K is like my sweet spot. Personally have run, countless, maybe 30 or 40 half marathons, only 2 more fulls. I did an ultra and like a 6-hour race and a half Ironman. But again, kind of like you mentioned, like celebrating the season we're in. I'm in a season of not much sleep. I have a 1-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. And so I'm adjusting my goals to realistic goals. Like some days it's a 2-mile easy run. Other days I feel like I can do a speed workout, but it's more a lot of the easy runs right now for me, and that's okay. Like I'm celebrating it, I'm moving. I still love this sport. I never want it to be something that I dread doing. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, kind of my running journey per se.
I love that because I love hearing people's running stories, because how we get into the sport truly is very unique to each person. So I'm just laughing because I'm like, oh, here you're kind of the opposite of me, right? Where you went from turkey trot to marathon, and I went from, the 5K. I did a lot of half marathons. I was someone that I was like, I'm never going to run a marathon. Don't want to do it. I entered the Chicago lottery and I said, well, if the universe wants me to do it, then the universe is telling me I'm ready to do it. So like, I'm still someone who I still consider myself a reluctant marathoner, because I do them, but I complain a lot while I'm training for them. I complain while I do them. It's just a weird relationship. So I love that. And I also love the party pack mentality, because I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in the numbers of running, and we forget that there is such a wide range of people who do these events. I did a relay race 2 weekends ago. At this point, it feels like 2 weekends ago, with some friends. And it made me so happy to see there was a pace group for walkers. Like, with the stick and everything that said walkers, and we all saw that and we're like, that's amazing. Why don't more races have that?
And that's so true. I've paced before at like the 3:15 for the half. I'll preface to say every runner has that grit and the tenacity. I have my friends that are, sub-3 full marathoners all the way up to the course is closing down. And everyone shows up, they train, they put their best foot forward. But there's something about that party pack. There's something about the end. And I'm like getting goosebumps just thinking about it. I always get emotional at like finish lines. It's seeing them knowing they can conquer something bigger than themselves. A lot of people are there, it's their first time, or they've gone through something and they're using this as their outlet. And it's really emotional for them. I feel like sometimes on a different level. And it's really beautiful to see them walk through that and walk through the trenches of, like you're hitting the wall, or I don't want to do this, or, F this, why did I sign up for this race? Hopefully I can say that. And then get to the finish line. And it's just like this beautiful weight is lifted off and the celebration begins. It's really a beautiful thing to see. And you never know what someone's journey is that day on race day. Someone might have trained beautifully and they woke up and they're dealing with some chronic illness and they just, you know what? I'm going to kick it with a party pack. So you just never know. And I just think it's a really fun place to be and to coach and to run myself. I love being the back of the pack.
Yeah. And it's also, you don't think about how hard it is to be a part of the party pack, right? Because you're thinking about different nutritional demands, different fueling demands, different load on the body when you're out on the course longer.
Time on your feet.
It is very different. So I think it's just so great. You said Disney, right? So everyone knows Disney, or a lot of people know Disney for the balloon ladies. Like that's part of the spectacle of a Disney race, is seeing them or knowing where they're at or knowing that they're behind you. And I truly do wish more races did that, where they had more of a party pack, like an official party pack presence on the course, because I think that would open up the field to so many people who want to do a 5K, 10K, half marathon or marathon, but maybe feel like that's not the space for them because they're walkers, or they like to incorporate walking into their running.
And I run intervals. I pretty much always have. It's just my duration of intervals changes as my aerobic capacity and my training goes along or comes away type thing. But I love intervals. But I agree, having more races, like New York Marathon, they're there till the last person, and it's so moving. And but I also recognize that not every city can do that because of road closures. And like, I understand the logistical part, but I really wish there was a way around it, because it's so fun to see. And I recently did my first time race, a 6-hour race, and went in with no expectations just because I was newly postpartum-ish and just wanted to like go have fun. So why not run 6 hours around a winery in California? And I really liked, for me, mentally, that worked well versus doing a half marathon and having like, this is just, I could do one lap and be done, then go sit and drink some wine and camp out. I didn't, but knowing that it was a little less pressure, really for me was also a nice way of bringing the party pack into a different arena, I feel like, and that was a fun way to take that load off as well. But I agree, I wish more races would have the balloon ladies, or, just, they're not tearing things down and having no water on the course. Like, you have to slide it over, understood, but like just being able to support the runners and their hard work, I feel like is super important.
Which is interesting though, because a lot of these courses will have time limits, right? Like when you sign up for them, they'll say it's a 4-hour time limit for the half marathon or whatever the case is. And it's strange now that I'm thinking about it. I'm like, so even these courses that do have those time, like they advertise they have the time limits, they don't provide the support for it though.
They don't. I've definitely paced someone and been at the end where we still had like a good like 30 or 40 minutes, and like the volunteers like taking things down. There was only like, maybe some bagels and like, some banana, like there wasn't much left. We still had a good like 30 or 40 minutes to go. And it's really disheartening, I know, for a lot of runners. And I feel like that's such a mental roller coaster to go through when you are back of the pack and you're the sleepers behind you, the course is going to shut down, but they push through, and that's a really, I think, hard internal battle to overcome, but their tenacity and grit really shows through because there's not many people cheering for you at the end. It's not like the same when you have the first 50% come across the finish line, people are cheering, you have the cowbells going, the announcers calling out your name, the music's bumping, volunteers are throwing the medals around your neck, and they are coming in and maybe there's not much left, or there's just the announcer, no one else like watching you go down the chute. So it's kind of, the tenacity there, I feel like, is to be celebrated for those runners.
Yeah, talk about a missed opportunity on behalf of the race organizers and just the race in general, because that, I'm always curious, and I mean, we'll get to that, where how do we get more people into the sport? And I think in creating more inclusive race environments is one of those things. And I know for me, I always tell people when they approach me and they say they have trouble finding a consistent rhythm with running, I always say, sign up for a race. That's like one of my number one recommendations, because I'm like, the day-to-day grind of running is really hard, but when you know that you're working towards a specific date and a specific race, it makes it easier. But also, there's a lot more logistically to think about in terms of, what if you are one of the party pack, one of the back of the pack people? I always say sign up for a race, partly because it gives you that date, but also because races usually are a big celebration. Like there's a lot of people out there doing it too. So it's an interesting thing to kind of ponder in terms of how the culture around racing and the racing environment can change so that it can be more inviting for people.
Right. Yeah. And that, I wish, is one of those like could wave a magic wand and have an answer. But yeah, we can dig into it more when we talk about the inclusiveness of running. But yeah, it's definitely a topic that I feel like needs to be explored more and, all sides kind of considered. So
yeah. How has postpartum running been for you?
So after my first Madison, who's 3.5, I got really sick at like 9 days postpartum and ended up being hospitalized. A blood pressure cuff saved my life. I had severe postpartum preeclampsia and then infection that was almost trending septic. So I was rehospitalized. And I'll tell you, that first year, I went in pretty healthy. Like I worked out the morning, my water broke. I wasn't at my optimum, but like I was still like running a little bit, walking, doing weights, doing Fit for Mom, like moving the whole pregnancy, felt really good. All of a sudden I had blood pressure issues, kidney issues. My A1C would not go down. I was having arrhythmia, this rapid swelling. My foot actually put a stress fracture in my foot from it because I gained like 30 pounds in 2 days, just from the swelling of it. And so, and I think I just like was so swollen, I stepped and just like, so it was hard. I got back to it and it felt good, but it felt like I wasn't in my own body. I'm sure others have felt that way. You're learning how to become a mom. You're not sleeping. Your body doesn't look the same. That whole mental struggle was hard for me on kind of that body. I don't say body dysmorphia, but just like accepting of where I was in this new body. But it got there. It did. And I sought out pelvic floor PT, which I had no clue what it was until another mom told me, which I think is such an underused resource. But it's also a resource that's hard to access because insurance most of the time doesn't cover it. And so financially it is hard, and fully recognize that. That's a whole other conversation on maternal health care. But it got going, but I also really had to check myself and be like, you know what, let's do a 5K, you know, like we're gonna do a 5K and let's just do it for fun. Like this is really when I really started celebrating where I was versus like, why am I not hitting my old paces? So it got there, and learning how to lean into, I used to be a morning runner, like wake me up at 4 a.m., have my cup of coffee, peanut butter toast, like out the door, run, 5 to 7 miles before work. Like that was my jam. That is not my jam anymore because maybe the kids are up at 3 in the morning. Maybe I need to run on lunch break. I work remote, so I have a lot of flexibility. So that first year I got into my groove, and then we went through some fertility treatments for our second. And that was hard on the body with all the medicine pumping through. So I switched more to like spin and walking and didn't really run. Up to like 18 weeks, it just didn't feel good running. So I just didn't run throughout my pregnancy, which is fine. So now I'm getting back, he's a year, getting back into it. Like I did the 6-hour race, I've done a few 5Ks. I'm more consistent with training. So he doesn't sleep. And I really believe sleep is important to feel good in so many other areas. So again, leaning into, this is the season I'm in. And like yesterday, I did just an easy 2-mile run. It felt good. I felt like I could run forever, but I also know like I got no sleep. So let me just take 2 miles. That is okay. So yeah, just kind of giving myself that grace and that permission slip. I feel like it's really hard I feel like any time you're in a shift in life, it's hard because everything on social media and those little tiny boxes on Instagram can be perfectly curated. And some other, mom, I hate the term, snaps back, but just like goes right back. And that's amazing. That was not my journey though. So being able to differentiate between a 1-minute read I read on a post versus they have so many other minutes in their day that they're not showing. And I'm the same way too. You show the highlight reel, completely get that. So really just being in my own and really learning how to do that internal work, which I work on my clients with, but again, this is like coaches need coaches. To work on it for myself was hard too. So it's been a great season. The kids love when I run. We have the double bob, and I'll run my little one to school. It's about 2 miles away, then take the 1-year-old. I'll go around the long way back home to do just about 6 miles some mornings. And they both think I'm really fast, which is really fun. My daughter's like, "You run so fast, Mommy." I'm like, "Yes, I do."
You're like, "Yes,
Thank
I do."
You. Yeah, she's my little hype girl. She'll be like, "Go, Mommy, go." So that's always great. And it's also nice too, because running with a double stroller or single stroller really prepares you to run solo. And it is such a freeing feeling to be able to you feel like you're gliding, just like cruising. So that's kind of how hopefully that answered my postpartum running. That was kind of a long answer to it, but.
No, that's great because it shows how with 2 pregnancies, you had such different experiences, and that's part of what you say, right? Celebrate the season you're in. It's that celebrate what you've got. And I agree with you. I started running when my daughters were 2.5 and 6 months old. And I remember Instagram was so new at that point. I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't have anything to compare myself to. It was wonderful. And it
Yeah.
actually wasn't until a few months ago that I was like, this realization that I started running as a postpartum person. And I was like, oh, wow, talk about, I did this really hard thing of give birth. And then I thought 6 months later, it would be a great idea to start running. And for me, again, just so grateful that I didn't have social media the way it is now in terms of like that snap back, or, I feel like a lot of women have this pressure without realizing that they're supposed to feel good and run all the way until they give birth. And then after 6 weeks, they can run again. And it's like, it's actually not that simple. And for some people, it works that way. And for some people, it doesn't. So I love that you shared that, because you had two very different experiences, and you're here to tell the story of how both are perfectly fine. And it's great.
It is. And to like leaning into, had some SI pain the other day in my joint, and I was like, okay, like maybe I didn't do as much like pelvic floor work after, because all of it works in tandem. So like now I'm like, hey, let me get back to doing my exercises. And I really feel like for me, it helped me get more in tune to the bigger picture versus like the next run. Like if I need to just go easy or do a walk or adjust my intervals to walk longer on a day that I just not feeling it, that's okay. I'm still out there and moving, and I should celebrate that. And also my kids can celebrate that. Like they love to go on runs with mom. They love to go hike with us as a family. And that to me, I think is the greatest gift to give them as well, to show them a healthy, for me, in my mind, a healthy way to live. And also it makes me, especially because I have a little girl and a boy, but the little girl especially, tap into not talking about my body in a bad way, which is really hard. I feel like for a lot of us, oh man, I was slow today, or I can't wear that outfit because my thighs don't look good. Kids absorb that. And I feel like now, especially with social media, the good and the bad, we're more cognizant of it. So I feel like really working through that has been a journey, but really a positive one, especially because we always talk about we have strong legs, strong heart, like when we're hiking up a hill, things like that, just positive ways to frame things that are hard. And, she knows we do exercise because it makes us feel good, makes us happy, and it keeps us healthy, but we should always find a fun way to do it. And for mommy, running is fun. So really working on that has been a good, like healing my own internal dialogue, I feel like, through her. And that's been a really hard but fun process. And I can already see that even at 3.5, they're little sponges, as you know, pick up everything. And they say everything that you say. So it's nice to hear that, or at least for her body, she's repeating and conceptualizing beautiful things about her body and how her body moves and feels.
I love that, because that was when I started running. And anyone who's listened to the podcast probably knows this, or who knows me in person as well, is very much so because of I have 2 daughters, and the idea was I wanted them to see being active as just a part of normal life, right? Like that's just what we do as part of life. And I fell in love with running myself, and running was the thing that I did because I could put them in a stroller and I could do that with them. It didn't really matter what time of day, as long as they could fit in the stroller, they had some snacks, we were good to go. But it's so interesting to hear you say about the languaging and how you heal yourself through the words you pass on to your kids. Because there was my oldest daughter, and I love her, but she was she's still kind of challenging. But I remember when she was maybe around 6 or 7, and this is just to show you the influences that kids have beyond the household. So when she was around 6 or 7, she got it into her mind that I had big thighs. And she, on 2 occasions I'll never forget, because the first one was, she said something along the lines that she didn't want to have big thighs like me. And I was like, oh, okay, this is awesome. Like, this is coming from my own child, which is funny because at home, we don't talk about bodies like that. We talk about, we talk about ability versus appearance. Like that was something that was always really important to me to talk about. Like, it's not what your body looks like, it's what can your body do. So she got it in her head that she didn't want to have thighs like me. And she would say like, oh, I hope when I'm older, I don't have thighs like yours. And I'm like, man, this is challenging because it's coming from my own child. Like, this is my child.
Hard.
Yeah. And the first time she said it, I told her, hey, like, I love my body. So you can say whatever you want. I love my body, but I want you to know that there are people out there who don't love their body. And if you say something like that, it's going to make them really sad. And this is really hard to try to explain to a 6/7-year-old. And then the second time she told me that, again, it was something similar of like, I hope I don't have thighs like yours, whatever. And I'm like, girl, I can't explain genetics to her, but it was just so funny because the second time she said it, I told her, I'm like, all right, do you know what these thighs can do though? And she's like, they can run marathons. And I'm like, exactly. So like, what this body can do. So let's not talk about what the body looks like. And I told her as well, I'm like, on top of running marathons, hey, guess what? These legs can carry both of you and your sister in their arms. So I am strong. But it was just it was in that moment, I was so grateful that I found running when I did, because running helped me feel so powerful in my body. Like, running was one of those things that to me, it's just such a gift. It is truly such a gift to the athlete.
Right.
And it was one of those things where I'm like, well, I'm glad I've been running this long because now I know what my body is capable of. So it doesn't really matter what it looks like. I know what it can do. But it was hard because it came from inside my own house. And I love telling this story because it's like, you never know what the influences are on your children and how that's going to come up. So I love that you're already starting to cultivate that dialogue with your children because it is so important. They're going to see their bodies one way, but eventually the outside noise is going to come in and they may change the way they see their bodies.
And I love what you said, the ability over appearance. I love that. It's such a powerful, just like one-liner to use as well.
Yeah. I mean, I had to, when she said that, and I'll never forget, because one time we were in a parking lot and the other time was at a pediatrician appointment, like one of her well visits. She said it and I was just like, oh, child, we're gonna have fun here, because on the one hand, it's like disappointing, but I always try to see things, particularly in parenthood, of, okay, where is the learning? Like, where's the lesson I can teach them, or what do I need to learn about myself in terms of how I'm parenting so that I can handle this better? But it's hard.
Yeah, it's humbling. Parenting is very humbling. Because words can resonate for so long, and you want to make sure that you're setting them up to be the best they can be, but also compassionate and empathetic towards themselves and others. And it's hard. It's the hardest thing to do.
It really is. Do you feel that what you've learned about yourself as a parent, as a mother, has bled into how you coach your athletes?
Oh, I love that question. Yes. Because I'll be honest, I feel like everyone, before you become a parent or guardian, you see kind of the example of seeing a family at dinner and the kid has a tablet. I will never do that. My kid will be able to sit through dinner. Well, we've all had some sort of thought until it happens to you. And so I feel like I sometimes used to have that, well, like, why can't you still work out? Or why, just not understanding how much your body goes through. I feel like we do a disservice by not sharing that as much. In like PE or FLE, whatever we did back in elementary school. But knowing that, and knowing that being able to meet them where they are is super important. So I'm also a nationally board certified health coach. So I work with, so when I do run coaching, I also pair it with health coaching as well. So like that's important to focus on, because if one area kind of your health is off, the rest feels off. So for me, my sleep is off right now. It has been. I know it will be for a while longer. But so some days I was talking about earlier, like it's a shorter run, or I just, not just walk, I go for a walk, I move my body. So being able to understand that and know better to relate to my clients is super helpful. I feel like now, having been a mom, most of my clients are mom beginner runners. So I'm glad I can be there for them and know, but also know that everyone's story is different. And that's where the kind of health coaching comes in. They're in the driver's seat, and I might have a little roadmap and help them navigate. They want to go up this exit or that exit by asking some behavioral questions. But other than that, they're in the driver's seat, and they know it works best for them and their family and their health.
I love that, because that's something I try to emphasize to everyone, that your coach is, it's a relationship, and the coach is going to work with you to create something that's personalized for you. If you just want a plan, I just think it's like, it's impossible to have a run coach and not have a relationship with the run coach. If you don't want a relationship and you just want the plan, there's so much online that Google you can access, right? Yeah. Like, so here, I love that you're weaving. I feel like you're weaving a story for the people you work with. It's not just the run coaching, but it's also the health coaching. And that is something that's so important, because again, I say this all the time too, where it's, being a runner isn't just running. Being a runner is everything else that makes life up for you. So walk us through what it's like to work with you. So I'm an athlete, I'm looking for a run coach. What's the process like for getting information from you, for you, with you, just the entire process? What is that like?
Usually if someone slides into my DMs, like that's such like a new age thing, slide to the DMs, and I, just kind of have a talk first. Like, what are you looking to do? I kind of also look on their social media if I can see things, just to see, I want to make sure I'm the right coach for them, and they make that decision, but I just want to know kind of some things about them. Have they been running for 30 years and like are trying to be cute? I'm not the coach for you. I could, but that's not my jam. So I would refer to someone else. But send them my little inquiry form, and that goes through like, what are your goals? What, have you run before? Have you not run before? What are your intervals? What would you like to see for your overall health? What are your current stressors in your life? Which is super important, because, do you have any upcoming travel happening? Like, things to know. I also ask, like, what's something fun about you? What do you want me to know about you? What is your learning style? Do you like a rah-rah? Like, do you want to just have someone like, I'll get that, like text, like, you got this, awesome run today? Or do you want someone like, let's pull up your stats and go through it? Like, where did you bonk, or why, you felt you weren't doing well at this pace? Like, let's talk about your fueling. Everyone wants to be coached differently. Some just want to know that I'm there on the other end. And like, he sent me like an email once a week. Sure, whatever works for you. So really getting their style of learning and being, but also their overall health. Like, are they sleeping? What's your usual routine? Do you work, out of the home, in the home, either working or stay-at-home mom? I feel is still working at home. And, what do your runs look like? Are you pushing a stroller for every run? Do you have the opportunity to not push a stroller? Do you have access to a track? Like, where do you live? Is it safe to run where you live? Or do you feel safe, I should say, to run where you live? Are you running on a treadmill? What's the weather like? So kind of just going through. And then really, I feel like I'm fun and informative. And like, so a lot of, memes get sent back and forth. And once they kind of get their personality too, like, one of mine loves Schitt's Creek. So I'd send a bunch of like, a run didn't go well. And I was like, oh, David, that run did not go well, and like, she's cracking up laughing. And just, it is what it is. The run didn't go well, and we planned better for the next one for her. So kind of just being with them. And most of mine are text message based, and emails for like longer emails, like on nutrition or like explaining tempo runs, things like that. A lot of it's just checking in via text. And a lot of it's the mental mind work too. We do a lot of good, that's where I dig more into like, so health coaching is more behavioral questions, motivational interviewing, positive psychology. So that's where I dig into like, let's visualize your finish. Especially the party pack. How are you going to feel when you go through that finish line and there's no support there? How can we set you up for success on that? What matters to you? Why is this race so important to you? What is it about this race that's so important that you're willing to fight to the finish line, even if there's no finish line? If you're willing to pull on the sidewalk and finish there. So really working through that and reminding them what their values are when it comes to running. Why is it so important? Maybe they had a health trauma. Now they're trying to work on their biometrics. And this is important because one, they get a medal, but two, they want their blood pressure to go down. It's like, what are you working towards and what is important to you in this? It could just be the run. I want to run the race. All my friends are running it. I want the medal and the shirt. Perfect. That is a perfect place to be. I want to check it off a bucket list. Perfect. But majority, I would say 99% of the clients I've ever worked with have a deeper value. There's something else connecting them to this, to why they want to do it, and really unearthing that and reminding them of that and circling back to it when things get rough and tough and we're in that training cycle and it's not feeling good, or there's all of a sudden ice and you don't have a treadmill and you don't want to run outside for safety, or you don't feel as well, or flu, cold, RSV season, like everyone's sick in your house. So really working with them through all those processes and kind of developing a plan and remaining not their cheerleader and not just their confidant, but also helping them dig deep in themselves to push forward as they would like to.
I love all of that for so many different reasons because again, I say this too, so sorry everyone, you're hearing this all the time, but running is really, it may be an extreme, but I say running is 90% mental, 10% physical. That's just in my experience. And every single race that I've done or every run that I've done, I would probably say the thought that happens or the thought that comes through is, I don't doubt my ability to do it. I just question what it's going to take in my mind to get there. I know if I start a race, I'm going to finish it. I don't know what demons I'm going to fight in my mind in order for that to happen. So I love this because you're talking about, and this is something I do too, with anyone that I work with, I always want to understand the why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want this? What's the purpose of this goal? What does it serve in your life? If it, sometimes why can be a little put people in a defensive state. So it's always that curiosity of like, how else can I ask this to understand what is really motivating them to want that goal? What's behind the desire? So I love to hear that it's for you, it's also this process of unearthing that deeper desire, but also that value. Like, what is the value that is connected to that desire or to that goal? And even something, it's such a beautiful question because I think it's a question we can all ask ourselves, regardless of where we finish. It's that, how are you going to feel when you get through that finish line? And how do you want to feel when you get through that finish line? And that's something that's important for people, who travel for races and they're going solo, right? Like you're going solo without any of your support network, any of your training partners. How do you want to feel there too? So I just find all these questions to be so helpful because the reality is that running is hard and it's so hard. And you really do have to connect to something deeper in order to continue showing up. And I just really appreciate that you're challenging the people you work with to get clear on what that is. Do you find that you ever get any resistance to that line of questioning?
Not typically. Back when I would coach in Savannah in person, because now it's all do virtual. Occasionally there was a runner who had done a bunch of races before. I was just there just to kind of, and I'm not downplaying, I don't want to call it recreational runner, but didn't care, like was just like ambivalent to the race we were training for. We just wanted to get out, and just having someone there was the accountability of having the run group there. And that was fine. So some people, they don't need to dig in, which is whatever works for them. But majority of runners, I feel like, do. And could at first be like, oh, why are you asking me this? But then once, kind of explain, there's also science behind it. I mean, any goal you have, that's why New Year's resolutions don't work as well. Because it's not tied into values, and it's tied into, you don't have the steps to get to where you want to go. It's just, the majority, I want to lose 30 pounds this year. Or I'm going to, not drink alcohol, or I'm going to run 5 days a week. Well, is that realistic for you? If you haven't run before, you ran 1 day a week, why are you jumping to 5? Like, let's backtrack it. But more importantly, like, why is this so important to you? What will your life look like in a year if you make this small change every day? So not really reluctance. I feel like once you explain it, but also I feel like if they're not there, it's also not my place to push, digging into their why, their values, what's driving them, and just meet them where they are, so.
Yeah. And that also goes to the idea that the person who's meant to work with you will find you, right? The person who's meant to work with you is going to be in alignment with that questioning.
Right.
So I think, and that's something I always try to, in my real life, talk to people about. There are enough people out there. We don't need to compete with one another for anything. Like, don't need to compete with anyone for run coaching, for yourself, for someone else, or any of that, because we're all so unique that the people who, I mean, you said it yourself, right? The person who's looking for that BQ, good job, but let me direct you to a coach that can help you with that. That's not my area. And I find that is also such a beautiful way for you to embody like your own confidence. How did you get to that point to be able to say like, nope, it's okay. Like, it's okay. I'm not your coach. Totally fine. I'm going to cheer. And I always say that. I'm like, I may not be your coach, or I may not be the person for you, but I'm going to cheer you on regardless of wherever you go. But it takes a lot to be able to confidently say that.
I feel like the confidence comes from not being fearful. I'm not the coach for everyone. And I know that. I can be a little more unicorn and rainbows and confetti and like, not intense in a good way, not like intense, like you're going to do this set, like this is your markers, but like in terms of like, I'm always there for them. They know that they can text me and like, I will probably answer within 2 hours, it's the middle of the night, I'm probably up with the baby. But I'm not the coach for everyone, but it comes from a place of, I'm not fearful. If I can refer them to someone else, I know eventually, I only take 2 or 3 clients at a time anyways, but if I only have one, that's okay, because then I can pour into them with what they need. And I know someone who wants to work with me will come. And it makes it so much easier. It's kind of like forcing, like when you're little and your mom wants you, well, this is me personally, to wear a certain dress for like communion pictures. And I mean, we still have the picture. It's hilarious. The dress was beautiful, but my face was just like in every single professional photo, like making this like scowl. I didn't want it because it was being forced on me. Sorry, Mom, love you. But, it was similar kind of coaching. If I can't force myself, I can't also, I feel like we do a disservice in coaching if we try to meet everyone's goals. Oh, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, we might have the foundation, but if you're not 100% confident in your coaching of that, refer it out. I really feel like we do such a disservice to ourselves and others. You cheapen your brand. You also, you're just not working within your scope and what it brings you fun and pleasure, and that resonates to the client. I've had people ask me, I've done, a few tries and like 1 half Ironman. That's it. I am not a tri wizard. I swam competitively, but cycling and all that, not my jam. Could I? I could. And I've had people approach me for it. I'm not the best coach for you. Would it be great to just take your money and do it? I mean, if that's your philosophy, but that's not my philosophy. I want you to reach your goals and have fun while doing it. And I can't provide that for what that person's asking. So it comes with, I think, experience, and a little bit of business acumen, like knowing that it's okay You don't go to McDonald's trying to buy sneakers. You know, you go there for a coffee happy meal, and then you go to like a Fleet Feet to get your sneakers. So, yeah, I feel like it just comes from being knowledgeable and confident. And I feel like that comes with time and also a lot of failures along the way too. Like we all fail. They're good experiments for us in life. I feel like that's where it comes from.
I just so appreciate that, because I think more people need to get to that point. And again, it goes back to this whole, and I'm sure, you know, you understand the concepts of like that abundant mindset, scarcity mindset within all of this, where it is, you have to, and I think you're also speaking to knowing what you have the capacity for as a coach to offer the people you work with. That brings me back again to like just trying to emphasize, hey, everybody, remember this coach athlete relationship. It is a relationship. You're not just paying someone to give you a training plan. That is part of it, but you're really, I feel like cheerleader isn't the right word. And I don't think support is the right word either, because I feel like run coaches do so much more than that. But what I'm hearing you say, and I just appreciate it so much, is just, it's also, you know, yourself. You know who you are as a person, as a coach, as a leader, as someone who interacts with other people. And you said something of like not being afraid. And it's like, oh, but you're also not afraid of showing up as you are. So I think there's that as well. As a coach, it's knowing what do you have the capacity to, because ultimately it also has to feel good for you as a coach to work with the people that you're working with.
And you bring up a good point, and I'll say it's really hard, and it is a mental mind thing sometimes with social media, because I'll do reels. I'm not the best at it. I post a lot about my kids, even though it's my business account, because they're so darn cute. So they're my loves. I want to share what we do as a family. But it's also hard when you see other coaches who seem to have a bajillion clients. They're doing all this, and it's hard to take a step back and be like, that's great for them, but that doesn't work for me. It might work for them, and that is great. I don't know what everyone's business model is and business plan. That's not my business. It's their business. But it's kind of like in yoga, standing on your mat. Like your mind's on your mat, or in running. Run the mile you're in. This is my mile I'm in. I work with beginner runners, back of the pack, run walkers, a lot of moms, and we're going to have fun. They're going to learn a lot about running and learn about themselves, and they're going to celebrate along the way. That's what I do for my runners. And that doesn't work for them, I'm okay. Again, like I said before, refer out to someone else. But that's what I am confident in doing, but it's really hard. I will say my confidence does not always show up on social media, because even though I come from a fundraising background and used to raise millions of dollars, and that's to me, it can be sales. You have to ask for the donation, but it's relationship building. And so I just hope that my story comes across without having to ask for it sometimes, because I'm getting better about asking, like putting my programs out there, because it's hard. And that's where confidence can be a little bit squashed when people don't sign up, or not as many, or they challenge your offering with a price, even though you know it's a great deal and you're giving them a good deal. So I feel like it's a multi-edged thing to go through as a coach in the world of social media as well. But a lot of it does stem from the confidence and knowing to say, no, it's okay. I'm not the coach for you.
Yeah, listen, I love that saying of like, no is a complete sentence. Love it. I'm like, yeah, it sure is. But I think it also, you know, we're talking about, again, I'm going to keep coming back to this of like, it's a relationship, and everything that you're talking about is like, oh, these are dynamics that I don't think people really sit to think about when they're thinking about their run coach, right? They're not sitting to think about maybe you as a human and what you give in this relationship, in this exchange. And also just, you know, as a thing, because I feel like I had that moment too, especially throughout the pandemic, where it's like a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people definitely grew their businesses. And there were moments where I'm like, man, why am I not growing like that? Like, why don't I have the clients, or why didn't I do that? And it took some time, a lot of therapy to realize that, because that wasn't my goal. One, it wasn't my goal, and it wasn't what I needed to do in order to be who I wanted to be. And that's kind of a hard part too, as a coach. And it's again, like highlighting the social media world of, even for you as a coach who is confident in herself and in what she's offering, the seeds of doubt can still get planted when you're viewing what things are happening on social media. The reality is, oh, someone may have a big client load, but maybe they're not putting in the effort into developing the relationship in the same way that you are.
Right. And that works that's more transactional, and that works for people. But like, I think just like you said, like having that relationship to me and that rapport and that trust, to me is so imperative, especially when things get hard in training, or life throws you a curveball and you have to work it out and share it. Versus, I know sometimes, back when it's more transactional and like a big group, people just ghost. Hey, I'm in the middle of a divorce, or my child is really sick and in the hospital, and they just ghost. Versus like, let's partner through this. Not saying you're sticking to your run plan, to a T. Like, I'm here as your support as well, as part of your plan. What other support you have, I'm also in your corner too. And I think that's so important for relationships and rapport building as coaches, to really be there through all the seasons. Your runner might have all the seasons in one coaching cycle. You never know. Sometimes life just hands a whammy and you're there, and then you can work with them on realigning their goals. Maybe they're not training for the marathon, but how does, maybe you want to get back into the gym or do your Peloton 2 days a week, but also run some, and then keep your base going right now during this hard time. And I feel like you don't get that when it's more transactional coaching, which again, works for some people, works for some coaches, not how I operate my business and my coaching.
Yeah. And I hear all of that and I'm like, oh, I love it, because you're seeing the you're seeing the humanity of the athlete. And honestly, I would like to meet the person that can truly say, without a doubt and with a straight face, that the past 3 years of their life have not been chaotic. Because I'm like, I want to meet that person, because it's been chaotic. As I look ahead, I'm like, oh, there's more chaos on the horizon. Like, it's that. And I love, and I think this probably goes into your coaching philosophy and into your coaching style, where for you, it very much is a collaborative partnership. Like, you are working with people collaboratively, you are partnering with them. And in a way, it almost sounds like their goal truly does become your goal. Not necessarily for you to achieve yourself, but for you to set them up as best as possible to achieve it themselves.
Correct. It is. And it really is to walk through too with the runners, and see them get there and go in ebbs and flows, because we all have had ebbs and flows in our training cycles and in life. And everyone handles stress differently. I know that about me. I can have a heavy load and still function. Not everyone can, and that's okay. Like, meeting them where they are, and really it comes to that trust and rapport building relationship. I feel like we're speaking. We can talk on this forever, I feel like, because it's so embedded in us and valued for us to be that coach. And I feel like that's such a beautiful gift to give the runners and ourselves, because then we enjoy doing it. It's super fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you had to synthesize your philosophy as a coach into one sentence, what would that be?
Fun, informative, with a side of reality and dreams. I feel like that would be one, like a tagline. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you're speaking from experience, right? Of everything you have gone through, of how do you celebrate where you're at. You're also
Mhm.
speaking to the desire, even for yourself, to create that for the people that you work with, where it's like, okay, we're going to have fun with this. Again, we're all acknowledging that running is hard, but if you can have a little bit of fun while doing it, it makes it easier to keep doing it. Oh, nope, I cannot hear you right now. Do you want to try
Oh,
speaking again? There you go.
there you go. It froze up for a second. I was like, I don't know if I can hear her or she hear me. Okay.
I can hear you. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Let me tell you, the internet here in Miami, Florida, and my house has not been great. So I appreciate everyone who listens and can get through these little momentary awkward pauses through the show.
Yes.
But I can hear you now. And again, wanting to say that fun, informative with a side of reality and dreams, because that's part of it. Part of the whole process is constantly readdressing what your reality is and how in alignment with the dream it is.
Mhm.
And I feel
Yeah.
like you, as the run coach, you're that and in that statement. You're that connector of the two for the people that you work with.
I love that.
Oh,
Yeah.
listen, it's just coaching is such a beautiful thing. And my goal
It
with
is.
all these conversations is to hopefully help people see that it's not just, your coach isn't just the source of a training plan. Your coach is an incredible resource. And here you're not only the cheerleader, the support person, but you're a partner and you're working with people. And it's just, I have such a soft spot for the people in this sport who make the sport better. So I love all of this. I have one final question, and we kind of alluded to it at the beginning, but how can we make running more accessible?
Ways, like the racial trails, and I feel like personally, I was right before at the form, but when I walked, I felt like I wasn't looking shoes. I'm looking around like someone told me to get like real running shoes, not like the $20 ones from Marshalls or something. And having one of their employees finally came up to me, and it was the most welcoming experience. And I know that comes a lot from customer service, and dealing with different body sizes is important from that initial touch point, because that could turn someone away immediately. But also having, when you have run groups, we would always have a back sweeper coach for like those that walked, because they did take longer. But making sure everyone was not left. Like you run at different paces, but you circle back, or someone's on the bike circling around. I think that's really important too. So that back person, if they're walking, doesn't feel like they're holding up the group. Now I get there might be a large disparity between the 7-minute mile pace runner and then the 22-minute walker. But is there a little coffee and whatever at the run store, wherever you're meeting after, that everyone can go to? They understand, I understand that not everyone's going to wait, but there needs to be a coach or support person there with them, not just like, hey, we'll see you at the IHOP or the coffee shop, in an hour, when they'll be there in like 2 hours. I feel like that's a true gift to give to them. I also feel like, I think Allison Desir, the author of Running While Black, mentioned this in an article, alternating your run routes to different areas of town. I think that's really important to have it be accessible and open, but also have you see other areas of town that you might not familiarize yourself with is important as well. I feel like there's a lot of different ways too to get involved as a runner, whether it's like Girls on the Run for young girls to learn, or the different programs where you're running, say with a homeless shelter, and providing a run group for the men and women there. I feel like too, it comes down to the neighborhoods we live in and how money is given out to different areas. Some areas of running are more appealing. They have a nice paved trail and you have lights on the trail and there's a parking lot with adequate lighting if you decide to do that. Or the sidewalks are all even. Whereas other areas are not adequate, given as much money. So it's a little harder to run there, a little more like tripping, stumbling over sidewalks or not feeling comfortable if there's no street lights on, things like that. So really looking at that, which is more systemic roots of different pockets of neighborhoods. But I feel like as coaches, I know for me, I price my coaching not low, because I'm not discounting my service, but I always work with runners. If they need a payment plan or they're like, hey, I really want to do this, but I can't, let's work it out. I want you to succeed. And I believe personally they'll come back tenfold. So really working with someone if they can't, but if financially is a barrier to them, working through them. Or if they can't, maybe we just find a run plan, or I have one, not a canned one because everyone is custom made, but I can make a quick, you're doing a 5K, here's a quick 5K plan. Can I check in with you a few times? So you're not getting coaching, but you still have the support, someone's there, and I don't mind doing that for free because I really feel like it should be accessible. But running is an expensive sport. It is not just throwing on a cheap pair of shoes and your old cotton PE uniform. And I know that it is hard, but really working with runners to, whether it's finding deals at, Marshalls or Dry Fit or something, or, kind of working with them through that. But I feel like this question could go on forever. And I also feel like other people's voices should be louder on it, just because I do live in a nice neighborhood. I'm educated, not a minority besides being a woman. And I feel like we need to listen as people who are not a minority, listen to those minorities on how to make it better. I shouldn't be, not saying you're asking me this, but I'm not the expert on it. But I feel like we should listen and we could all do better systemically to make it more accessible on so many different areas. Hopefully that answered your question in a roundabout way.
Oh, that was an excellent answer, because it is, when I asked the question of how can we make running more accessible, to me, it's more the curiosity of how you're going to respond, because there's so many different ways. I mean, you gave practical things, right? You gave the practical suggestion, and then you also touched upon the more systemic issues. So it's like, here's the suggestion, but let's not forget that there are systemic issues that those suggestions just don't work with, right? So if you have something like, I think of the running as an expensive sport. And a few months ago, I had posted this reel of how much my running outfit cost. And it was a lot. When I saw the number, I was like, oh, okay. And I remember posting it, and people, not a lot of people, but definitely quite a few people had something to say about it, and how oh, they got their shoes at Walmart and you can run with Walmart shoes and you can do this and you can do that. Definitely criticizing me for some of the choices that I made. And my response was always like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I'm also highlighting that that's not necessarily the case for everyone. And also highlighting the fact that it's so individual, right? The Walmart shoes may work for you, but in my body, it doesn't work for me. So, and I love that you point out the fact that it's like, there's other voices that we need to listen to. And I agree that there's other voices that we need to listen to, but I also agree that we need to have these conversations. We also have to be okay with the ones to start the conversations and say, hey, I want to hear your thoughts on this, versus just kind of thinking it's not my issue because I don't see it, I'm not going to talk about it. And it's like, no, but it is everyone's issue, because we're all lovers of the sport of running. So I just think it's more just love how, and I think everything that you've said in general, from your experience as a coach to how you want to coach, you are so aware of the context in which running is happening in general. So you bring in such a global view that, I mean, it's just great to talk to you about these things, because you're really, not to say that a lot of people aren't thinking about it, but like it just comes across to me that you put in so much thought and so much of your heart into all of these things. And it's something that everyone will benefit greatly from. Oh, no. Oh, no, no, no. Let's see. Can you see me? Perhaps. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Oh, no. Oh, can you see me? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
You're frozen for a while, so.
Oh, Lord.
That's okay. It was a really great position. You were frozen. You're kind of like this. It was great.
So again, everyone, I am so sorry. I'm going to have to start rebooting my internet just to make sure this doesn't happen, because it is quite an adventure. So I thank you all for for hanging out through that little bit of time where maybe it was really silent. But I was just trying to say that I appreciate how global you view working with people and also running in general, because we are all part of multiple systems. You can't approach running and just view it as running. Running happens within everything, you know. It's just such a big issue. Oh, did I freeze again? I think I might have frozen again. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Oh, no. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Oh my gosh, this is such
I feel like the Verizon commercial.
This is a trip. This is a trip. You know, we're just going to leave it at what it is. And I just wanted, I'm like, every time I say it, I'm going to try to shorten it just in case I freeze again. But I just wanted to just truly just thank you for being so global in how you think about things and how you see these issues. And I agree that there's so many voices to hear, but I also love that you're open to having the conversation, because
100%. I don't shy away from it, because I know I can learn a lot as well, and grow a lot, as we all can, especially when it comes to systemic issues, racism issues, socioeconomic issues. And we can only learn by listening to other stories. And I can also use my voice to help with them, but I know I'm not the only voice to listen to. So no, you hit it right the nail on the head. I'm always open to learn from others.
Yeah. All right. Before my internet freezes again, because that's just where we're at on this on this day. Oh, yeah. Tell us, where can we connect with you? Do you have anything coming up? How can we learn more about you?
Wow. Perfect. So hopefully they can hear me. So you can connect on Instagram at Perfect. So Victoria T. Buker on Instagram, or Facebook is Integrative Health with Victoria. My website is Victoria Buker. So my last name is Buker, so victoriabuker.com. I have two fun things happening. I have the Party Pack group training, which is only 5 to 7 women, starting January 15th. All virtual. Everyone has a different goal in mind, but we really work through goal setting, a lot of health coaching, a lot of running, a lot of mindset work, and a few fun freebies thrown in on that. Also, I am a race director for a virtual event called the 140 over 90 run, which I think I forgot to put in my little things to you. And it's the third year. It benefits the Preeclampsia Foundation to raise money for access to blood pressure cuffs, like the cuff that saved my life, and research for groundbreaking research. We have raised over $10,000 in the past 2 years. We're hoping to cross over 15. The medal is amazing. So peep on my Instagram, but it's 5.5-inch heart medal, and the center spins. And it's glittery and beautiful. Everyone loves our medals. They are like my favorite on my medal rack. And that's the virtual rates, like $30 and $35. You have a 5K or 140 miles in 90-day challenge. So super obtainable, super fun, and all the money goes to the Preeclampsia Foundation.
I love that. Is that information on your website? Oh, I froze again. All right, let's give it a minute. See if I come back or if she comes back, or if not, just awkward silence. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
There we go. I'm hearing now, yes.
This is a journey. This is truly a journey here. I asked if the virtual race, if the information was on your website.
It should be. Let me go. Yes, it should be like in my About Me. I don't put it prominently on my website, but the 140 over 90 run is the Instagram account, and same thing on Facebook, which 140 over 90 is the blood pressure for when you cross into having preeclampsia with other kind of, so that's why it's called the 140 over 90 run.
Okay. Awesome. I'll make sure to include that also in the show notes and everything else. But I want to thank you for being here and talking to me today, and also for your patience while the internet went a little bit wonky on me there. I really appreciate it. And I thank you so much.
I will say, Stephanie, I hope people can hear that. I hope you can hear me. I wish people watch the YouTube so they can see how fun it is when we freeze, because it always makes me giggle when I see things freeze. Technology, it just is what it is.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. Because right now I'm like, wait, I can see that. Can you hear me right now? Oh, no. Oh, no.
I can, yes.
Oh, no. It just totally crashed and restarted on me. I hope everything is saved here because we had such a great conversation. I am just, this internet, we need it so much, and yet it can also be such a source of stress. But I do hope that people are 100%. Able to watch this, to watch it on YouTube, because I'm like, I think I might have been frozen like this at some point with my hands on my face. But I really do thank you for being here and for chatting with me today. Like I said, I hope this all gets
too fun.
Yeah, if not, we'll just have to repeat this conversation. Oh, I think I might have frozen again too. Oh yeah, totally did. This is an experience. All right. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if y'all can hear me as I'm recording this, but I'm going to put an end to this podcast because the internet gods or goddesses, I was going to say, I can see you now. And I just really want to thank you. I'm going to end this just in case.
Yes.
We keep getting frozen. But everyone, I hope you're able to hear this and see this. And we will see you soon. Bye.
Awesome. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.